Hey, everybody. Let's get rid of that. Hey, from Delaware. Nice to see everybody. Look, I got dressed up. I put a scarf on. But it's too hot, so I'm going to take it off. And I even put some lipstick on, but that's okay. And I got my mic on. There's my microphone. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad everybody could join us tonight. We did have quite a waiting list for this. This is exciting to be able to do this for you guys. I just love to paint. I'm happy to do a demo, and I thought spring flowers would be really appropriate. So what I wanted to do to start off with, like we started this 2 years ago. I think it was like April 1st or 2nd was our first one 2 years ago. And I made a little slideshow this morning of all of the workshops we've done in 2 years. It's just 2 minutes. So I'm just going to play that for you, and because it's fun. And I'll just sort of talk over it. So this was the last one we did last week. We did the anemones. Here's our koi that we did. We did our ball jars. This was one of the Imagine landscapes I did at some point in the last 2 years. Tulips and iris. Oh, that was a very early one. The peonies. Here's more peonies. We did glass bottles. Here's a landscape of my favorite climb. Somebody has to turn off their mic. Copper pots. Oh, there's one that the garden I used to live in. There's anemones, or Lysianthus, excuse me, fall flowers. Oh, me in a boat. Nothing new. A winter landscape. Oh, we did those glasses. They were really fun. Some crows. I think we had one or two different crow things. There's an Adirondack landscape, wet and wet. That was one of our Imagine landscape classes. Another boat. That's one of my boats. Oh gosh, another boat. Men in boats. A wildflower forest. Oh, and here's the Joseph Rock tree peony. This is the ledge. Some pears on a mirror. Some dogwood. So quite a variety. Oh, some more glass. And then that was the Hematite Genuine workshop that we did. The I can't remember, Queen Anne's lace, Lysianthus again, and our sheepscape that we did. Another boat person. Landscape, and that was an Imagine landscape again. Another Imagine landscape. And then there's another Hematite Genuine that we did, and some more crows. And we did one on mounting and framing watercolors without glass. And then the last one is, again, a friend of mine in a boat. So some recurring themes in what we do: flowers, boats, and glass, and landscapes. So tonight, this is one of the photos I took. These were, I think they were flowers from Trader Joe's when I used to go to Trader Joe's a couple of years back. Tulips and iris, eucalyptus, and of course, a Blanco vase. You can't go wrong with one of these Blanco vases. This is one of my green ones. I have a blue one. They make them in so many colors. Just really exciting to paint these. So. And I did do a quick demo of this and posted it a couple weeks ago, but it was all speeded up. But you're going to see the full. Someone is saying someone's dog keeps popping up in the screen. Okay. I'm not who that. Oh, I see it. It's like a Wookiee or something. Or a little puppy dog.
I was just going to mention, if Denise and anyone else who wants to know, if you hit the view box in the top right hand corner, and if you hit the gallery view, you should be able to scroll across the pictures on the top. When you find the picture that is Sarah's view of her palette and the painting, you can hover over that over the view and pin that to your screen, and that will be the screen that remains. Or you can make it speaker view, and the speaker 99% of the time is going to be Sarah. So you should be fine with that. So try that, and I hope that works for everyone. I'm going to go back behind the curtain now.
I am working on Arch's 140-pound cold press. I have a piece of cork that one of my students gave me. These are the kind of presents my students give me. It's like pieces of wood, pieces of cork, because it's a great thing to lean a board on. So anyway, 140-pound Arches cold press. I usually just use masking tape, just from the hardware store, nothing fancy. I don't use artist tape because it doesn't really stick very well. My palette, John Pike palette, and most of you have been here with us before, so, but I'll just go through these colors for you. I'm not going to use all these tonight, but over here I have Naples yellow and Jean Brilliant #1. This is a cadmium yellow, light, cadmium orange, cadmium red. I think that's cobalt violet in there. Alizarin crimson, burnt sienna, brown madder, yellow ochre, verditer, which is from Holbein, lavender. This is cerulean, cobalt, ultramarine. This is an imperial purple. I know it's hard to see in this light. Let me bring this light over. Oops, still hard to see. I can see it's dark. This is imperial purple, which is a Daniel Smith color. Cobalt turquoise light. I have Viridian in here, Payne's gray, and neutral tint. Half of these colors I don't really use. I kind of use the same palette pretty much all the time. I have a sponge here and a water bucket, so I take the excess water out of my brush after I clean it, and I just touch it on the sponge. I have a couple of my magic Holbein spray bottles. I could not paint without my spray bottles. They're almost as important as my brushes. So anyway, I love these, and you can get them through Dick Blick or Cheap Joe's or Jerry's. But you want a nice fine spray bottle. You don't necessarily want like a dollar store spray bottle. And I will be using an Escoda brush. This is an Escoda Prado, Prado. This is a number 12. And I also have a number, I have the other number. Oh, I have a 16 too. So again, you could use any round brush that you want to do something like this. The larger the brush, the larger the shapes you can make, right? So if you're trying to paint with a little brush, and I'm exaggerating, but look, that's a little brush. This would take me weeks to do this, right? And I have an hour. So, but I could normally paint this in probably 20 minutes or so. So the way I paint flowers, again, there's many methods. We could do a wet and wet. I like to start from the top and sort of work my way down and connect my shapes as I go, so that it doesn't feel like everything's just been kind of put on there separately. I want to have a relationship between my forms. So I found for me that works well. So I'll talk about my colors as I go. At the top here, and you can see the image hopefully in your top left corner. And so you can kind of follow along. I'm just going to start up here with these irises. I'm going to try to get these flowers in one go, right? How do we do that? Well, I'll just show you on a piece of scrap paper. To speak iris, right? What do we have to say? All we have to do is suggest the form. Just suggest it. And how do we do that? Take your brush. Don't let the brush dictate your mark. So we can lay down paint, we can soften an edge, we can put another color right next to that. So I'm just showing you this as an example that I try to really use my brush in all different ways. I turn my wrist, I twist the brush. What you don't want to do is make an iris like this, you know, here's this, here's that, there's that, right? Because then it looks like a child made an iris. It's nice, but it's a little, the edges are a little hard there. So I'll just show you how I do it as I go. I'm working on dry paper. The paper is not wet to start, and we're not trying to copy the photo, we're trying to interpret the photo, right? We're trying to just express the forms a little bit. So that was a little bit of purple. Here's a couple of my opaques here. So I could just touch that in there, maybe grab a little purple. So you see, I'm giving variety to this just by touching it. And soften that edge a little bit. All we want to do is hint at an iris. It doesn't have to be the exact shape. And I always joke with my students, like when you don't know what to do, just throw a little paint, just splatter a little. There we go, that looks pretty good. I might even put a little bit of cerulean on there. And I work on an angle because I want gravity to help me move the paint down the page. The steeper the angle, the more your paint's going to move. I would normally work on a larger block than this, a 6x6. This is probably 4x4, because I like it a little steeper than this, but I'm doing this so you guys can see. Let me get rid of those bunny ears. So now I'm going to make some foliage. So instead of going around and making all the irises, I'm just going to now touch a little foliage on this one. Bring some of that down. Connect that. And now I'll come back. Let me use this smaller one. Here's a little cobalt blue and maybe permanent rose. So I just jump around and try to get different combinations of blues and purples in here. And again, I lay down paint and then I'll soften an edge. I'm gonna just, this needs a little stronger pigment in here somewhere. Watch this, I'm just dropping that heavier paint right into that damp area. There we go, now it's got a little bit of life to it. Same with this one. A little stronger pigment here. And again, soften an edge. And all I do is I take water and touch the edge. And if I want to get something a little deeper in value in there, again, just touch a little bit of a darker value right into that wet paint, right? And see how it all sort of melts right in there. And again, if you don't know what to do, just throw some dirty water there. There you go, that's nice. Soften the edge. All right, so I'm working my way down. It's just a cad yellow and a little bit of cobalt blue or cerulean. And I'm kind of working down this way. I'm gonna put a little more cerulean in it because those eucalyptus are sort of a blue-green, you know. Maybe a little lavender in there. Again, soften an edge as you move down here. And I use the drawing, but then I kind of ignore it. You know, I like to follow the paint where the paint takes me. There's a little bit of that there. And again, I can always splatter a little. So I'm also varying the weight of the paint as I go. It's not all super light paint, right? So some of this has more pigment in it. Some of it has less, so there's more water in it. Here's a little bit of cerulean with that yellow. And I just sort of work my way down, still trying to connect everything, right? Not jumping around too much. Connect that to that. That looks pretty good. And again, soften an edge if the edges are too hard in here. So what I might do now, I'm gonna, again, I like to work top to bottom, and if it's too tight, take your spray bottle, and I'm about at least a foot away, and I'm just lightly spraying that. And what that's gonna do is let some of those colors just sort of melt into each other. So I'm gonna come back over here and say, here's a little bit of a, and I just made a couple marks, but then I'm going to go in and soften some edges. So I really try to get a variety of values and colors in there. Hard edges, soft edges, a little bit of splatter. Oh, that looks pretty good there. Right, bring that out. And if it drips, that's okay. I happen to like drips. I often will use them. You know, and so often when we're doing our first wash, people worry and think they've ruined the painting. Well, it's not possible to ruin the painting in the first wash. You just keep moving, keep painting. And most of the times when you come back to it, you're going to say, oh, there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually really nice. Because we can get really obsessed with trying to fix something before we've even completed it. All right, so I might put some of those lilacs in there. This just a little bit. I think this is actually lilac. It's a Holbein color. I usually use cobalt violet, but that's really expensive. So I've sort of switched to this lilac a little bit. So let me, just gonna touch that right on the edge. There it is. So I'm really just putting the one pink on there, but do you see I connected it right to that iris there. And let me add a little bit of punch to that. Just put a little bit of red in there to make it a little more varied. And again, touch the edge. Just let that edge drip a little. I don't have to complete that whole thing. What I might do is come back and just put a little pigment right on this, that little eucalyptus there. So connecting, and not worrying if something's not working. Again, if I feel like I'm in trouble, I just sort of throw paint, or I just soften an edge. I'm gonna pop in this one tulip right here, and I am going for transparent orange. I mean, I'm just going for the like straight orange. Oh, look at that. Pure, almost pure pigment, right? Teeny bit of water in there, because I really want to punch that color up. And because there's wet edges on two sides, I know I have to put pretty strong paint in there for that to not bleed too much in there. There we go. Isn't that that's such a great color? So there's that, and I could soften an edge, but I know I'm going to come back and paint next to it. Just going to put there's a little stem there. And then the same thing with this tulip out here. Just again, almost pure paint, right? I just squish it in there. That's a technical term, right? Squish it in there. And then it does seem to be a little bit of a pink, a beautiful pinky, touch a little pink on this end. So I'll lay down pigment and then I drop other paint into it. And then it's a little redder here at this end. And then what I'll do, watch, I'm going to soften one edge. Just took a clean brush, right? Has a teeny bit of water in, soften the edge, take that extra paint out. Again, same thing, just soften that edge. Because you don't want everything to be surrounded, right? You don't want the same edge on every form. I'm even going to punch that up even a little more, a little stronger. Because we need these 3 tulips to really kind of hold the, they're what are going to give us the movement through here. There we go. And again, a spray bottle if things are feeling a little too dry. I'm going to bring the rest of this lilac in here. So, right, that's how I make lilac. Just wiggle the brush around a little bit because it doesn't have to be, it's not the leading actress, right?
Hey, Sarah, I'm sorry, I muted you by mistake. You'd think
Hey.
after 2 years, I wouldn't be doing that anymore.
What's happened?
I'm so sorry.
They're trying to silence me and my watercolor.
Oh, anyway. All right, I'm back behind the curtain now.
Thank you, Tara. That's funny. I didn't even know. Let's put a little deeper pink right next to that. Again, I lay down pigment and then I drop a little paint into it. So there's a lot of edges that are a little mushy in there. So what I can do while I'm working, I can just take a flat brush. I can always lift that edge on there just a smidge so that separates from that form back in there. Let's see. All right, so just gonna do a couple of these shapes that are here in this. Let me just clean my palette. It's hard to work with a dirty palette. And I'm just mixing a green again for the foliage. I often make my greens just with yellow ochre, cerulean blue, and cobalt blue, just to get a variety. Just popping some of those in there. And again, I just keep connecting my shapes. That's the most important thing to me. All right, so I'm going to sort of pull this way. And there is like a little bit of a red in those stems. For the eucalyptus. Let's see. A little yellow, a little blue to make a green. So really, I just make a shape. I'm not even worried about making it look exactly like a eucalyptus. I'm just gonna have them be all a little different, right? Maybe splatter a little in there. And then I can take some of that brown matter and just touch it on there as the kind of a stem.
Hey, Sarah.
Yes.
Quick question. Do you recommend any other yellows other than the yellow ochre for the greens?
Yeah, I'm using my cadmium yellow that's right here now. If you want a little bit of a brighter green, I've been using the cad yellow. Some people like to use aureolin. You could use a Hansa yellow. Um, this tends to be a little cooler, but that's okay. All right, so just getting some of these on here. And again, when I don't know what to do, I just splatter. Just throw some paint. Oh, I forgot, I got to get this tulip right in here. And again, pretty strong paint for this, right? Almost solid pigment in there. And I'm not too worried about the variety of color that's on there. You certainly could, you know, if I was going to spend more time on it, I might add it, but for something like this, we don't really need to. This is more about like spontaneous shape making, relationships. Yeah, I try to mix my greens. I don't like a lot of the tubed greens. All right, so all right, some shapes here. And again, variety of shape. And again, I tell myself, don't think about making a leaf, right? Because what happens? Then you make every leaf the same. And I was going to demo on the painting, but what you want is to just think of it more as calligraphy, right? You're just expressing form here and there without, because what happens, this is what we do, you know, we make a leaf and then we make another leaf and another, and so then every leaf starts to look the same, and then they're all lined up like happy little leaves, little Bob Ross leaves. So soften that a little, and I'm gonna again pop this color up a little more. It's gotta be a little stronger. And just, there we go. And I just spray it because it really sort of recharges some of the pigment. So if I want to, I can kind of go back in and strengthen something. And you do get some of these drips, but again, I don't really mind that. I'm all about drippy paint. Again, strengthen that a little. And soften edges, right? Because you don't want every edge to be defined. You want a soft edge and then a hard edge. Just trying to deepen that a little more. Let me just clean my palette real quick. It's hard to get clean paint from a dirty palette. And I'm just going to switch my water out. I tend to paint very messy. I know a lot of artists are pretty neat, but all right, let me just switch out this water. Which brush was I using? Oh, I'll go, you know, here's the brush. I'll use this one. All right, so that's looking pretty good. I do like the little more cerulean on some of these, because that eucalyptus does read sort of cerulean color. And again, maybe splatter a little. Maybe I can deepen the value on some of those greens a bit, a little stronger. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of value where everything is going into the vase. so often when we're doing where the stems are going into the vase, we line up our stems like this, right? Like little fingers, as opposed to thinking, oh, it's a mass, right? It's a three-dimensional form that is moving into that vase, as opposed to two-dimensional flat stems all lined up in a little row. So just gonna maybe I'm just gonna add a little maybe calligraphy down there just for fun. I could put a little green there as well. And again, I like to splatter and use a spray bottle. Somebody has their mic on. Let me just get a paper towel. Excuse me for my hoarse voice. All right, so that's looking pretty good. And you know, if you want it to drip more, you can always turn it upside down and let things kind of blend this way too. I like it when everything is kind of, again, connected. And I can always go in and put some darker darks in places if I need to, but I'll wait. It's pretty wet in there now, so it's a little hard to get in there to make darker darks. I will put like maybe a little bit of a deeper stem right here in terms of value, right? A little stronger. There we go. Maybe there's a little value in there. And a little stronger in there. All right, so now here we are at the top of the vase. And I often work with students and they go to put their stems in the vase and they'll put the stems in first, right? And then they'll try to paint the vase over top. And again, we want to forget that they're stems. All we're doing is looking at the shapes, right? The light and the shadow. So we're looking at that green, and I do see a lot of sort of blue in there. I'm going to add a little yellow ochre to that. Maybe a little bit of yellow. So there's many ways you can kind of get to that color. You could use a little teeny bit of cobalt turquoise light. Lots of different ways. And see, I just very gradually sneak up on the color that I'm looking for. And then you sort of know it when you find it. So here's a really pretty green. So I'm just going to kind of come right here, right at that top edge. Now I did miss some of that value right below. I'm just going to leave a little bit of a white edge in there. So it's like having a highlight. Excuse my hoarse voice. So I am just going to lay in the common color to start, right? Just the lightest light goes everywhere, right? We're not worried about how many stems there are, which direction they're going. Watch this. I'm just touching. I'll use a little bit of yellow ochre. I'm just touching this in here, just guiding this down the page. And this moves because I'm working on an angle. So see that beautiful bead? There we go. And there's the water line right there. So I can kind of stop that right there at the water line. Oopsie. And then what I can do is make some of those deeper greens. And just look at the shapes where they sit. So this one kind of sits in here. One kind of comes this way, but this is not going to go anywhere where I haven't already wet the paper. So, and that could be a little stronger, and it's just cobalt blue and yellow ochre to start. It's a pretty green, but there we go. And again, I can touch it, and the weight of this pigment is a little heavier right? Has a little more value to it than what I put on as my first color, right? And so do you see it holds its shape a little bit in there? And I can wait and just come back and get the darker darks in there. But again, I can just touch it in and pull it down. So it's like working a wet into wet. So now we're suggesting form going into there without having like stems that look silly, right? I'm just leaving a little teeny white highlight on there. And I'm gonna just take the flat brush. I'm just gonna bring that little eucalyptus back that's almost white and like a light blue. I'm gonna bring that one back. And I just use my flat brush and kind of reshape this in here. There we go. Looking pretty good. All right. So I'm still at that water line. Again, I can make it even deeper if I want to. And as you do this, you have to increase the amount of pigment in your mixture because you can't put watery paint on here because what will happen? That's when you start to get the blooms. All right, so there's the dark value there. All right, so back to a little bit of a lighter green. Here's this edge. There's kind of the water's edge, and then it kind of goes back there a little. There it goes that way. This comes down there. All right, so now I can start to put the pigment down in here. And again, you don't have to be careful. I'm really just, see, I'm wetting this with paint, the lightest light, and then I'm gonna drop the stronger pigments into it. And then you get that nice kind of watery, glassy feel to it. And again, because I'm working on an angle, I get, the paint really just does its thing. It just moves down the page without me having to do much. Look at that. Look how pretty that is. Oh, I love this. Love that bright yellow in there. Maybe I'll add just a pop of that somewhere in there or there. And again, this is where you could use a flat brush too. I could lift some of that water line back again, right? And then I could lift some of the light here, maybe lift some of that shape there, a little along that edge. And watch, I can even, the Blanco vases, they have those beautiful circles on them. So do you see, just with my flat brush, I can lift up that circle. I am going to put paint back in there, but it's just a great tool. Let's see, so there's darker value here and some darker value in here. So again, I'm working wet into wet and using a little bit of heavier paint. But it's neat because you don't get the hard edges. So it looks like it's in a watery world. Let me just take my spray bottle and lightly spray that. It just softens it up a little bit. And when I spray something, I'm not right here spraying, right? It's hard to show you. I'm at least a foot. It's usually more like 18 inches And I don't just spray one area. I kind of mist, like if you were going to mist your face, that's how I treat it. Like they were fresh flowers and we were misting them. So again, pigment that has a little more weight to it, so we can get some of these shapes in here. Right, there's darker value there. There's a little darker value on that bottom. Deepen this here, darker, right? So again, I'm working in here while it's wet. Would I call it a wet and wet painting? No, but you can use a number of varieties of techniques in one painting. You don't just have to use one technique. So wet an area with your lightest light, and then you can drop your other paints into it. If it's feeling too stiff, again, take that spray bottle, let it kind of melt. I like to say, recharge the pigment, because then it's workable again, right? Because I can come back and lift. I can say there's these lights right here. Look at that. I can lift up that shape here. Or if there's a little shape there. Do need stronger pigment here. This is the speed version. It's not easy to do a demo in an hour, but again, I'm going to get a little stronger paint here and here. Darker value here. Sometimes it gets a little too wet and you have to let it dry for a couple minutes, and then you can kind of come back and lift again. I think I sprayed it a little too much. There we go. And let's see, we'll say there's a little bit of light running through there. So again, a way of putting stems in a vase as opposed to stems on top of a vase. And I can deepen that a little. Lift that. So again, for me, painting is sculpture, even with watercolor, because you can lay the paint down and then you can lift it up again. This is still damp in here, so I can, if I want to put a highlight on there, I can still do a little lifting on that edge. These are a little dry. So maybe a little more lifting there. And what I can do too is, I'm just going to kind of connect a shadow shape to this. Though I didn't leave myself much room on the bottom, but I'm just going to get like a sort of a greeny neutral blue and just kind of, oops, a little bluer. Just connect something to the bottom here a little bit so it doesn't just hover in midair. I should really have left a little more room for myself. And again, when in doubt, just splatter a little. I could splatter up in there. And I don't really have time to do the whole table. I probably wouldn't maybe put a table in as much as I might put like a darker background maybe on one side and have more light coming from another side. This was a still life that I set up at a garden center a number of years ago for a workshop. So the lights were all coming from overhead. So there's no really great light source here. Let's see, we have a few more minutes. Is it possible to give us a better view of the photo? Yes, here it is. There's the photo. Excuse my gravelly voice. And I just manipulated it a little bit in in the photo program, just to kind of find some shapes, just to kind of block it up a little bit. Oh, you're very welcome, Eileen. Yeah, it's a nice photo. I found it a couple weeks ago. I was like, well, I'd forgotten I'd even taken this photo, and it reminded me of spring. So I thought this would be really great for painting. I'm having trouble getting some of those darker darks on there. Just deeper greens, just using a flat brush. I'm going to do a little bit of shaping. So a little more in here, a little darker in there. And I like to always have some kind of color that's in the flower. So you could drop a little bit of a lavender in here, right? We could just touch a little lavender, do a little line work with some lavender, maybe even outline some of those eucalyptus a teeny bit, right? Just to give them a little volume there. Oh, and I know the eucalyptus also have this little ring of, it's almost like this little red edge. So I can take a dry brush and kind of maybe put a little bit of, this is my brown madder, just a touch of that on a few of them, just for fun. Doesn't have to be a lot. It's not looking too bad. Let me just grab another paper towel. And I'll quickly show you, oh, we have what, 10 minutes. I'm going to quickly show you how I would start a background. If I was going to put in a darker background, and again, this is the speed version, and some of you guys have seen me do one of these. And I like to do these when it's still damp. I'll just do it on the one side. So I'm going to grab myself a big juicy brush. I'll just do a little teeny bit of it. So I'm just going to wet this back area, but I'm going to wet it with like some Naples yellow. So again, I'm going to sort of wet a whole area as opposed to wetting it with water. I'm going to wet it with paint, and I'm wetting it with, again, this is the quick version. I'm wetting it with an opaque pigment. And I could use the Jaune Brilliant #1 to do this as well. And I'm just squishing it on here, right? It's not anything fancy. You don't have to be neat about this, but it's very light, right? It's not super strong, heavy, too heavy. And it's a nice color for a background if you just want something really light. And this is still wet, but I'm just kind of working my way around here. Got to be careful of that edge because that's super wet in there. But I just would, just want to show you a little bit. So I'll often lay down these opaque pigments. And then what I love to do is drop darker values right into this, which is already wet. So watch, I'll take an ultramarine, and I think this is like a perylene green or something. So I'm just doing a really beautiful dark teal, like I'm going really dark. And again, some of you have already seen me do this. So because this is already wet, I just wet it with this yellow. Watch what this beautiful dark does. Oh, it's fabulous. So I don't always come right up to the edge. I'll just kind of work my way close to it. And again, this paint is pretty thick, right? This doesn't have a lot of water in it. I'll show you the viscosity. Like if I hold up my palette, it doesn't move. So again, it's just ultramarine and a perylene green. Perylene is also known as like shadow green. I think Holbein it's called shadow green. So you see how I can just smush that right on top of that. I've already wet it with that beautiful warm color. So it allows me to kind of, and I can come in and And then you don't get as many hard edges. I do have a lot of negative space in there I have to kind of think about, but anyway, I can just get rid of some of it. But it's a really beautiful way to lay in a dark background and not have hard edges. So again, you wet it with you could wet it with a yellow ochre, but again, very, very light. I like the pigments that are opaque because they have weight to them, right? So they almost hold the darker colors. And then what I like to do with this, I let this sit for a couple minutes, and then I'll actually kind of spray it and let some of this drip away. So I'm just taking my spray bottle, and what happens is you'll get the underpainting of the beautiful yellow. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. So you'll get these beautiful a glow in places, and I should have waited a couple more minutes before I did that. But again, that's a way to start laying in a background, and I could just, you know, lighten this up over here now. Let the color change a little bit to a lighter green. So it could be dark on one side, and then we could have it go just to a really light on the other side. You know, this warm could be our dividing line, you know, it could be a tabletop or something, and I'm just putting it on pretty thick. Oh, Dennis or Denise says, beautiful, you make it look so easy. Well, you know what, I spent a lot of time playing, and really I'm self-taught. I took a couple workshops, but I really am just curious, and I spend a lot of time playing and just trying things and trying to not be afraid to make a mistake, because that is so that we spend so much time worrying about messing something up that we don't try stuff. So one day I wasn't quite sure how to do a background. I'm like, well, let me just throw on some of this opaque yellow and then throw a dark on top. Well, you can do it with purples and browns. It's really a fun way to lay in a background. So so let's see, we have a couple more minutes. Oh, beautiful, thank you. What was the name of the yellow again? Oh, I have a cadmium yellow here. Oh, the Naples yellow is the color I put down underneath. And if you're gonna buy Naples yellow, you want the Naples yellow from Winsor Newton. You don't want anybody else's Naples yellow because it's very pink and flesh colored. And then the Jean Brilliant #1, you want to get that from Holbein, because everybody else that makes a Jean Brilliant, it is again really like a flesh color. So Jean Brilliant, Jeune, Brilliant #1, and get it from Holbein. So two beautiful opaques, and I did use, I used lavender tonight, which is an opaque. I used a little cerulean. I used some Vertider. It's really messy over in here now. But so I know I didn't do a full painting, but hopefully this gives you an idea of a way to approach a still life, flowers. Even when I do still life, I'll do this. I start at the top and I work my way down. Otherwise, it's really easy to get overwhelmed by all the things that you have to paint. So what I do is I try to say, all I'm painting is this shape and nothing else. One shape next to another shape, next to another shape, next to another shape. And I'll often have students say, well, what are you going to do when you get over here? I'm like, I have no idea because I'm here. So, oh, Dennis. Hi, Dennis. Hey, your painting is on the way. I'm going to wrap it up tomorrow. Dennis is getting the free painting of the ball jars. I just haven't put it in the mail yet. And Roxanne is saying, will the recording be shared? The recording will be shared with you guys. Tara's going to work on that. So Oh, aren't you nice, Chris? Thank you so much. All right, we have a couple more minutes. Any other questions from anybody? Or, and again, I'm sorry I couldn't do the whole thing, but hopefully that gives you an idea of how to do something like this. And here's my advice: paint it more than once. Just play. Just play. What's next is I'm going to do some pansies just because it was a simple thing. And then I'm working on the experimental water media workshop, which will be that's not going to be until May now. So, oh, hi, Beth. How are you? And Roxanne. Oh, the gang is here. Gosh. Yeah, thanks everybody for coming. And we just want to let you know that we really appreciate everybody's support. And who's that? Who's saying that? No questions, but we'll play with you. See you at Indian Lake. Okay. That's funny. Somebody I know from Indian Lake. Again, we really appreciate everybody's support over the last 2 years. We could not have done this without, this group of people that have sort of joined us and gone along for the ride. And we're just really grateful. And I'm grateful to the Art Center for teaching me how to do this. And now I ended up teaching numerous organizations how to do this. I'm spreading the love. So, oh, thank you to everybody. So Tara, do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight and for being with us the last 2 years. I can't believe I'm saying 2 years.
Oh, God.
I know. But I want you all to know how happy I am to see you guys here. And you may not, I know we have so many students, and you may not think that I recognize all your names, but I do. And
Oh,
I get
we
so
know
happy.
you. We know you. Yeah,
When I see
we
all the
know
names
you.
I recognize, it makes me so happy. So thank you for being our extended family of supporters. And we will look forward to seeing you again soon.
Hey,
I will get you
Jen.
this video tomorrow, everybody, and I will let you know as soon as we have more stuff up for you all. Thank you, everyone. Again, have a great night. Thank you, as always, Sarah. Can't do this without you.
Love you guys.
Guys. Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.